Hi, Michael Bettine here with part 4 of my videos on recording gongs. So today we're going to look at some practical applications and how to set up mics and approach things for getting a decent sound recording. Now the first thing you have to do is realize this is not a rock band. And I found that, to be the number one thing. This is not a rock band. We're not trying to get a sound like you would with a drum set, guitars, any of that. The thing with recording drums for a modern rock band is nothing is natural. I mean, the way they record them and process them, and often the drums are even replaced with samples or augmented with samples. So when you hear that song on Spotify or YouTube and the drums are kicking, there's nothing real about it. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a whole different approach to recording than what we want to do with gongs and bowls and things. So this first, let's kind of look at how they record rock music. Here's the singing bowl. Let's pretend this is a drum. If you see pictures, typically, here's a microphone, and you'll see the microphone right there, right on top of the drum, or just slightly off the center of the drum. I challenge any of you to put your ear next to a drum and have somebody strike it. Actually, don't do that because you'll probably blow out your eardrum for a while, if not permanently. Putting a mic on a drum like that is a very unnatural thing to do. It gets a very different sound than if the mic is further away. But making rock and pop and hip hop and jazz and all these modern sort of recordings, it's a very different art. And they're going for a very different sound. What we want in recording these instruments is a natural sound. And the biggest part of that sound is right here in front of us. It's the air. We want that air to be a part of our sound. So if we were to take the microphone and put it like right up to the gong or right up to the bowl, we're going to get the surface sound, and that's never where we put our ear. We're not playing like this. When we hear the instruments that we love, and when the people we play for hear them, they're hearing the air move between the instrument and their eardrum. So that's what we want to record. Again, that up-close sound is that's really not what we need. Now, I will record things up close. I will record the gong up close if I'm looking to get a certain sound, something real specific, but that's more of a studio thing than trying to record yourself live or just trying to record yourself practicing. And even when I'm recording drums, especially hand drums, I never have like a djembe or something and have the mic right on top of it like this. I would always have it a foot, maybe 2 feet away, because I like that air sound. I think it lets the sound open up more, whereas when you mic something right on top of it, the sound hasn't even opened up. So let's look at singing bowls. I don't know, everybody, I see a lot of posts on the internet about people, how it's so difficult to record gongs and bowls. And I've been doing it for over 20 years. I don't think it's that hard. But I think it's using, just some simple methods and really listening. So the first thing I would say, let's say you're going to record at home or in a studio, which is a very different situation than live, is have somebody play your bowls or your gongs, if possible, and walk around the room. Listen. Listen to where you're hearing things. Listen for a sound that you really like in a spot, in a certain spot. Or if you don't have somebody, hit your gong, and walk around. Hit your bowls and walk around. And listen to where it sounds best in the room for you. That's probably a good place to start with a microphone. Whether it's 5 feet away, 20 feet away, whatever. But do that. Listen to your room. Walk around. How does it sound? Then find a good spot. Plant your mic there. That's the place to start. Then do some test recordings and go, okay, I like how that is. Maybe it's not quite there. Okay, move it a little bit. Maybe move it back a bit. Maybe move it forward a bit. Sort of a generality here is the further back, the more air you'll get, the closer to it, the more presence you'll get. And that can vary a lot depending on your microphones and your setup. But yeah, walk around, listen to where it sounds good to you, and you go, that's the sound I would like to hear if I was listening to a recording. Plant your mic there. Now, often with the bowls, for me with the bowls, it's not always that far away. It can be just a couple of feet or a foot. This is about a foot. This is a good place to start. A foot wherever your bowls are. Now, if you've got multiple bowls, you can have 2 stereo mics, covering that. That would be fine. If you're trying to mic a whole setup with gongs and bowls and everything, if you only have 2 mics, you probably want to get them sort of in between. If you're standing up like this, okay, and your bowls are on the floor, well, start out with your mic sort of in between the height of the gong and the floor. So if this is 5 feet, okay, 2.5 feet. Try that. It's a good place to start. With recording, a lot of it is just trial and error. Position your mics, record maybe 20, 30 seconds, then listen to it and go, okay, I like that, I don't like that, and experiment. Ideally, especially if you've got gongs up in the air and bowls, crystal bowls and metal bowls and whatever on the floor, you're going to want to mic those with separate mics. You're going to have something down closer to the floor to really pick up the bowls, and then you're going to have some mics up higher that they'll also get the bowls, but they'll get the gongs too in a more direct manner. Because if you have the mics way down here, they're not going to pick up gongs that are up in the air directly. And again, it's trial and error. And you find out what works for you. And if you're recording in the same place over and over, you find your spots. You might even want to take a little tape and mark your floors. If you saw my carpets, I have little tape markers on my carpets where I set the mics for different things. And in my other room where I have my computer set up and that, I have the same thing. I have that set up because often I will do overdubs in there. Or this is my main studio room where I do most of my recording, but if I'm just doing overdubs, I'm over by the computer, which is in another room. So you might want to do that. But it's all becoming familiar with your room and your instruments. So if you go to a different room, you got to do it all again. If walk around, listen, find the places that you think things sound best. Now, what about if you're playing live? You're trying to record your session, your gong bath, whatever. The way I approach it is I just try to get the mics in a place out of the way. I mean, unless I'm looking to record a live thing for a download release or a CD or vinyl or something. If I'm just doing it for my own reference, I put the mics out of the way in what I hope is, kind of the best place. I try to center them. Often they're in the far back of the room, against the back wall, centered as much as possible, up in the air, usually about this high, just about eye level. And, you hope for the best. But I'm just trying to get a reference recording. I'm not trying to get something that I'm going to put out. Sometimes I have to put it on the sidewall because of the way the studio is and the way the people are. So I'll have it on the sidewall. So obviously it's going to be balanced more to one side. Like the right channel is going to have more than the left channel because it's on the right side. So you just have to work with what you're doing. Now, if I'm in a really nice acoustical place that I'm playing, like a church or a concert hall or something, and I want to get a nice recording, well, then I'll do the walk around again, try to find a good spot that I can set up the mics without being in the way of the people, hopefully, and then get them up in the air and be able to get, the room sound with it too. So that's just the basics. I mean, it's not rocket science, as they say. People get all like, oh, it's so hard to do. It really isn't. But the big part of it is, 1, having a good ear and listening. 2, having some decent equipment, some decent mics, and whatever you're recording to, something decent, whether it's a portable recorder or you're using an interface into a computer. Having decent product. And for most of us, I mean, nobody has to buy $6,000 mics and, $5,000 preamps, to go into a $3,000 MacBook to get a fabulous recording. I mean, this is not like the Boston Symphony or anything like that we're, trying to do a high quality recording to that degree. But something quality in your mics, and we talked about mics in the first video. Decent mics, a decent recorder. I mean, you can do a good stuff with your Zoom or Tascam recorder with the built-in mics or with some additional external mics. And if you're using just a built-in recorder, it's the same thing as placing the microphones itself. Listen around the room, set up your recorder where it sounds best, aim it at everything, turn it on, and get your recording. That's the best. Now, a lot of people will probably disagree with this. If you're some sort of a audio fanatic, studio guy or something, you might have all kinds of things against what I'm saying. But I've been recording my bands and everything since the 70s. I've been recording, well over 40 years. So I've done a lot of different things. I've been in a lot of different recorder studios, from multi-million-dollar studios to home studios. And it's just getting a good room sound with the gongs and the bowls, getting that air. So that's a basic one on mic setup and placement. Shoot me some questions if you have. I'll answer them in a future video. Hit subscribe if you really like this and you want to keep up with the gong videos I'll be putting out. And if you really like it, hit down below, hit the thumbs up button. I would appreciate that. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.